from the University of La Verne. This is Foothill Community News.
Welcome to a new season of Foothill Community News and our special edition on the California recall election. I'm Valerie Valadez.
And I'm Aaron Ariano. For only the second time in California's history, voters will decide whether to recall a sitting governor. Tuesday, Gavin Newsom's fate will be decided in a special election. Newsom has just midway through his first term as governor, so what prompted this recall? After a year's worth of school closures, business shutdowns, and protests in defiance of the state's COVID response, more than 1.7 million registered voters signed a petition to recall Gavin Newsom. Organizers of the recall say it's about more than just the governor's handling of COVID.
What this recall is about is we have a governor that we feel isn't transparent and accountable. What it's about is when the people vote something in, our elected officials should honor that.
Issues such as gun control, high income taxes, gas taxes, healthcare for undocumented immigrants, and government overreach are among their grievances. But Gavin Newsom supporters say it's all a Republican ploy to undo gains made in the state.
GOP and a number of very large millionaire and billionaire donors exploiting the special election process to try to take out not just one individual in the governor, but decades of progress that we've made on workers' rights, on reproductive rights, on climate change, on voting rights.
Let me be clear. This isn't about getting a Republican governor. That's the narrative that the press feeds. This is about getting a different governor.
According to a recent poll by the Public Policy Institute of California, 53% of Californians actually approve of the way Newsom has handled his job as governor, and 58% of likely voters say they would vote no on the recall. The poll also shows Californians are more concerned about COVID, the economy, and homelessness. Smith says most Californians support Newsom's handling of those issues.
You take the issue of jobs, for example. Since coming out of the recession in 2008, California has created more jobs than just about every other state combined.
Despite the governor's successes, it may not be enough to keep Newsom in office. According to the PPIC poll, 39% of likely voters would vote yes to recall Newsom.
40 million people live on or at the edge of poverty because of our high taxes and cost of living in the biggest state in the union with the most resources. Californians don't feel good about their state because they can't.
California is in the midst of a tug-of-war between parties and policy. It will be up to the voters to determine who will win this battle.
Policies concerning COVID, climate change, and homelessness are on the top of people's minds, and voters are split on how they view Newsom's handling of these problems. I went out in the community today to find out how voters are feeling.
It's the second time in California history that a sitting governor is being recalled, which means Californians have a lot to decide tomorrow.
A vote to recall Governor Newsom would mean disapproval of his policies such as his handling of COVID-19, the homeless problem, and the state's economy. A vote to keep him in office would be a signal for him to do better as a governor. Pasadena resident Christian Bracho says a recall gains steam for a reason.
I think that it's a sign that people are unhappy with a lot of things that are going on in California. To me, it's a sign that people are frustrated with leadership.
Governor Newsom has been in office for 2 years, but his job approval rating has fallen from 57% to 53% since July. University of La Verne political science professor Richard Gelm says Republicans may have the advantage in this election because they are more energized.
Anger is a much greater motivator than just about any other emotion, and they have some very strong feelings about things happening in California, and they have an opportunity to take that out.
Those who support the recall cite things like the state's increasing homeless problem and the governor's decision to shut down schools and businesses when the pandemic first started. But University of La Verne sophomore Juliana Contreras says she thinks Newsom is doing a good job.
I feel like he's dealt with COVID the best that he can, and I respect that.
La Verne resident Jay Wagner agreed.
I personally do not want to see him recalled, and I think he is the best choice of the candidates on the table.
Polls show that it will be a tight race, particularly against leading Republican opponent Larry Elder. Elder's conservative views dismiss gender wage gaps, oppose gun control, climate change policies, and having a minimum wage. These views appeal to a lot of voters like Mike Cravin of La Verne.
I like the way he thinks. I like his background, his education. how he arranges his thoughts, things of that nature.
Whether or not history repeats itself remains to be seen. In the last gubernatorial recall, actor Arnold Schwarzenegger replaced Governor Gray Davis. But this time, it's a different scenario.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger was a household name, a much greater high-profile candidate to take on the secondary ballot. Larry Elder, a conservative talk show host, doesn't have that level of name recognition.
If Governor Newsom should lose his seat, voters will decide who will replace him. We'll take a look at a few of the top contenders when we come back.
There are 46 names on the ballot, but one challenger leads the pack, Larry Elder. Reporter Rashonda Taylor tells us where he stands on important issues.
Republican Party frontrunner Larry Elder is Governor Newsom's biggest competitor in the recall election. The conservative radio talk host opposes the COVID-19 vaccine mandate and the mask mandate that Governor Newsom and his team endorsed. A Los Angeles native who grew up in South Central LA, Larry Elder considers himself a libertarian whose views are in stark contrast to those of liberal Californians.
I grieve at what's happened to my state, and I've got common sense, something sadly lacking in Sacramento, especially under this smug, corrupt governor.
Elder says he will tackle issues such as homelessness, the rising cost of living, and crime rate in California. According to the Public Policy Institute of California, Larry Elder is the leading Republican candidate with 26% voter likely support. Reporting for Foothill Community News, I'm Rashonda Taylor.
Trailing Larry Elder by more than a dozen points are Democrat Kevin Paffrath, Republicans Kevin Falconer, and John Cox. 29-year-old entrepreneur and YouTuber Kevin Paffrath calls himself a centrist. If he wins, he says he'll begin to address the homeless problem within 60 days and declare a state of emergency on housing. He also says he won't impose any more COVID mandates.
Republican Kevin Falconer served as mayor of San Diego from 2014 to 2020. During that time, he clamped down on the tent cities and pushed to increase the housing supplies. He opposes state mandates for COVID vaccines and tests for teachers. He says school districts should make those decisions. He also says he will lift the mask mandates and call for tougher punishments on crime.
Republican businessman John Cox ran for California governor in 2018, losing to Newsom. He vows to make housing more affordable by reforming housing ordinances and regulations. He opposes COVID vaccine and testing requirements for teachers and would rescind mask mandates. He says he'll address the homeless problem by calling for treatment for mental illness and drug abuse before receiving housing.
Up next, a primer on how to read your ballots. We'll be right back.
Some say e-cigarettes aren't dangerous.
But science shows nicotine can harm teens' developing brains.
No matter how they're exposed.
Let's do an experiment to find out.
Here's a teen who won't be using e-cigarettes.
Now we need one willing to risk their brain development.
Anyone care to volunteer your kid?
Anyone?
Your kids are not an experiment. Protect them from e-cigarettes.
There are only 2 questions on the recall ballot. To make sure you understand your vote, reporter Jonathan Garcia takes us through it.
Every registered voter in California was mailed a ballot, like this. It is simple, but it could be confusing. You are asked the question, shall Gavin Newsom be recalled from the office of governor? If you choose no, that's it. You're done. However, if you vote yes to remove the governor, you are then asked to choose a candidate to replace him. There are 46 names on the ballot. San Dimas resident Lupe Enriquez dropped off her ballot at a Dropbox location in front of the San Dimas Library.
Wanted to make sure I did the right thing. I didn't want my ballot to be rejected.
But she says she is not happy about the recall election.
I think it's a waste of money. I think our governor has done a great job.
Election day is tomorrow, and you can vote in person or choose one of the several options to return your ballot. You can drop it off at any Dropbox location or at any vote center before or on election day. There is still time to mail in your ballot as long as it is postmarked before or on election day. Make sure you fill in your ballot with either blue or black pen and that you sign the back. For more information, go to www.lavote.net. I'm Jonathan Garcia with the Foothill Community News.
Be sure to vote and make your voice heard. That will do it for now. Join us next time on Foothill Community News from the University of La Verne.
We'll see you next time.